The police minister and the police commissioner promise an upscaled police force. This as 3 more cash-in-transit heists reported today. Fighting for her career, Cape Town Mayor Patricia de Lille goes head-to-head with the DA in court over her axing, saying there was no justifiable reason for it. And in sport, Kevin Anderson's French Open dream comes to an abrupt end after he's knocked out in the last 16. This is eNews at 8, live from Johannesburg. I'm Sally Burdett. Good evening. In our top story, more police on the ground with better resources. Now, this is the promise from top cops as South Africa faces a spike in crime. Just today alone, 3 cash-in-transit heists were reported in Mpumalanga, Gauteng and the Eastern Cape. The police minister and national commissioner today announced the launch of a new strategy to fight back against criminals. Reporter Michael Apple has the details on the plan.
This new strategy then is pretty much a simple as that. We asked the National Police Commissioner if this isn't just more of the same. He's confident though that this new strategy is going to yield results in clamping down on cash-in-transit heists, hijackings, house robberies and taxi and gang violence.
We are now moving resources from the top levels. We're taking people out of the offices. Those resources, we want them to be on the ground where the crime is taking place. Further to that, I know that the nation is worried about intelligence. This particular process is going hand in glove with the overhauling or turnaround of intelligence.
This policing expert agrees intelligence-driven policing will strike blows against organized crime.
Who the leaders are, who the members of these organizations are, and then put measures in place to also arrest them, and with the assistance of proper detective task teams to build the cases that will allow the police to present this to the prosecuting authorities to start prosecuting.
News 24 reports that before Cele or Sithole addressed the media on Monday, 3 separate cash-in-transit heists had already taken place across 3 provinces before midday. Michael Apple, Pretoria.
Just an apology for the loss of sound at the beginning of that package, and we missed out what the minister said. The police minister said, and I quote, "The more of us on the ground, better technology, better intelligence, a better understanding will make us respond much quicker." That's part of the police's plan to combat the spike in crime. To the Western Cape High Court, and the battle between Patricia de Lille and the Democratic Alliance continues. At issue is de Lille's comment during a radio interview that she would leave once she'd cleared her name. Now, the DA says due to a clause in their constitution, she's effectively resigned by making that statement. De Lille's lawyer, Dali Mpofu, who is also a prominent member of the EFF, says there's no basis to remove her as mayor.
Patricia de Lille remains defiant. She's adamant that there's no justifiable reasoning for her axing. The Cape Town mayor is accusing the Democratic Alliance of failing to understand its own constitution.
I have not been found guilty of anything through a due process that include the right to appeal. That is why I had to turn to the courts to seek fairness and to seek justice.
The DA gave de Lille her marching orders last month. That's after her radio interview where she said she'd resign once her name had been cleared. The party also argues that de Lille lost the confidence of the caucus and council and is not fit to hold office. But her lawyers are disputing this.
What they are doing is to find a route towards her removal as mayor. So, having failed with the legal ways to do so, they then have to go through the illegal subterfuge of removing her as a member, pretending that she has violated a certain section. That would lead to her removal as a councillor. They should lead to her removal as the mayor, which is really what they want.
They're also arguing that the decision to axe de Lille was rash.
What is the urgency? We know they say that these things are inherently urgent, but can it be inherently urgent when you're in a dispute with someone for, we say, 9 months? This way, that way it goes. There's a plenary process, it's recall.
The DA will present its case when court resumes on Tuesday.
Traditional leaders and social grants are teaming up. Social Development Minister Susan Shabangu wants to protect beneficiaries from an onslaught of misinformation and scam cards. Now, the scams have targeted beneficiaries who still use the cash system, many of whom are in outlying rural areas. And to tell us more about this, I'm joined in studio by Erin Bates. Good evening to you, Erin. Now, what is this misinformation campaign all about and who might be behind it?
So the minister said that there is a concern that people are being told in rural areas if they redeem their social grants by cash using pay points, that all the pay points are disappearing. That's certainly not the case. She's also said that anybody trying to onboard people or sign people up for the SASSA Grindrod cards or for the Easy Pay cards should not do so, and they should rather go for the SASSA SAPO cards which are being introduced. And in fact, the minister said very specifically on the pay points issue that they're not closing down all the pay points and there's a proper process that needs to be followed.
So any idea as to who might be behind this, or could it just be people getting panicky because of all the uncertainty we've had around this?
Yes, there is a lot of uncertainty around this, and I think that the message that some people are receiving incorrectly is that they can no longer redeem social grants in cash. They certainly can up until the end of September, but they have the option of joining the SASSA SAPO card contingent, so they can sign up for this new SASSA SAPO card, or they can go to private banks. That's another option that they can choose.
Let's listen to what the minister had to say. She was quite clear on the matter.
We have not started closing any pay point. As we are saying, the traditional leaders are our partners. We'll have to work with them when it comes to any pay point. And when we do that, one of the issues which we are considering is that, is there a post office around that area? And linked to that, do we have an ATM or a bank within a 5-kilometer radius? So those are the issues which will inform if there's a need to close any cash pay point.
Because the ultimate plan is to stop the cash payouts, but clearly from what the minister's saying, they're nowhere near doing that yet.
Yes, she really wants to sort of let people know there's no need to panic at this point, that they can continue to redeem their social grants in cash or move onto the SASSA SAPO card, which is the new card. The concern is around people being approached, particularly in rural areas, to sign on to the existing SASSA Grindrod card or the Easy Pay card. And the minister has emphasized those cards are being diminished and phased out, and so people should not be accepting any offers to join them.
All right, so the scamsters are saying, here, sign up with this Easy Pay or Grindrod cards. Those are out. They must only go for a SAPO card, which looks like what you say, it's got a visa on it. Is that right?
Yes. So just to be clear, the current SASSA Grindrod cards do work until the end of the year. So people don't need to panic about those cards becoming invalid. They remain functional. But the minister wants people to move over to the new card. And as you've said, the new card contains the visa logo in the bottom right-hand corner. It contains the national coat of arms in the top right-hand corner. It also has the SASSA logo, a microchip, and raised numbering on it. And anybody who has concerns or doubts about the cards they're being approached to try and buy or sign on for can ask their local SASSA officers, or they can phone SASSA, and the number for that is 0800 60 10 11. 0800 60 10 11. They can also go to the SASSA website.
Thank you so much for clarifying all those issues. That is Erin Bates giving us the details on the misinformation campaign around social grants cards. Well, Health Ombudsman Malekapuro Makgoba says our health system is under such severe strain, we could be in danger of another Life Esidimeni tragedy. This time, though, in the Eastern Cape. Professor Makgoba is in Beaufort West this week, investigating complaints of ill treatment of patients at a psychiatric hospital.
I think there are many life esidimenies that are taking place throughout our country. I'm leaving next week to go to the Eastern Cape to look at a potential life esidimeni somewhere in Fort Beaufort.
The source of the Ombudsman's latest headache, Tower Psychiatric Hospital. A psychiatrist formerly employed at the institution filed a complaint saying that patients' rights were being infringed. Allegations include that patients were poorly fed and no proper records of the number of deaths or causes of deaths were kept.
In his February 2017 report into the Life Esidimeni tragedy, Makgoba found that the deaths of 140 psychiatric patients in Gauteng were due to gross incompetence. The patients died after the Provincial Health Department ended its contract with the Life Esidimeni Group and moved patients to under-equipped and unlicensed NGOs. A similar situation unfolded in the Eastern Cape. The High Court had to force the Social Development Department to renew its contract with the Eastern Cape Frail Care Pty, which subcontracted Life Esidimeni. The department says the contract is unaffordable, but it's struggling to find a replacement. The Provincial Social Development Department also says it's carrying the cost of patients who should be under the Department of Health. Aldrin Simpier, Johannesburg.
And staying with health news and a reassurance from Steve Biko Academic Hospital in Pretoria. They say their cancer treatment program is not on the verge of collapse or at risk of endangering the lives of those awaiting treatment. The Human Rights Commission has been investigating the claims and it seems improvements have been made at the hospital, but challenges remain, as Kylie Khumalo reports.
On a mission to set the record straight, Steve Biko Academic Hospital says about 150 cancer patients see a doctor. So, there is no looming crisis at the facility.
The allegation of services that are on the verge of collapsing are far from the fact. There has never, at no stage, have these services collapsed or even came closer to collapsing.
It comes in the wake of reports that the healthcare institution has failed to recruit enough staff or repair a broken cancer treatment machine, resulting in a backlog. The institution, which is one of the best oncology units, serves Limpopo, Mpumalanga, Northwest and Gauteng. It says there are about 18 radiographers available, but admits it needs more.
Then also to say the problem of radiographers, people move around, people are free to apply and recruit, but like we have indicated, we have got 25 posts of radiographers.
Meanwhile, the Human Rights Commission says it will release its report in about 180 days.
This healthcare facility is one of the third in the world to offer nuclear medicine to treat cancer. But it needs more specialists, like radiographers, to ably assist cancer patients. Kylie Khumalo, Pretoria.
Still ahead, back to school for 1,000 pupils in the Northwest Province after 3 months of disruption due to ongoing protests. To the Northwest Province now, and it was back to school after a 3-month break for some 1,000 pupils today. Children, of course, have been unable to go to school due to ongoing protests. But today, after a meeting with the provincial government, residents allowed schooling to resume. In March, residents took to the streets demanding tarred roads. Those volatile demonstrations lasted for 5 weeks. Now, residents have given Northwest officials 21 days to come up with a clear plan for addressing their concerns or brace for more protests.
When people they started to strike, this thing it's really affected us because of now everything is just messed up. People they were about to write their final exam very soon. Now we don't know what should we do because of we didn't even try to study at home. So I think now it's time for us to take our work seriously, focus on our studies, listen to our teachers very carefully.
Yeah, thanks, I will need extra time, make sacrifices to come to school on the weekends.
Those anxious children in the Northwest Province have quite a lot of catching up to do. Let's hope they move forward quickly. Let's move on now to some good and bad news from the receiver of revenue. The bad news, you now have less time to fill out your tax return. Returns must be in by the end of October, not the end of November as in previous years. The good news is that this will give SARS more time to audit before the December break, which means you might get a rebate before Christmas. Heidi Jokos has the story.
Taxpayers will have 3 weeks less to file their tax returns. SARS has shortened the tax filing season from the 1st of July to the 31st of October.
The Revenue Service says the move is aimed at ensuring efficiency and will allow for SARS to deal with verifications before taxpayers go on their December holidays. SARS also says many taxpayers are clogging up the system by filing returns for earlier periods. The system is also slowed down by over 1 million people annually who show up to file returns when they don't actually need to.
There's some interesting information that shows that too many people who are not required to file, due to them earning a single source of income from one employer of up to 350,000 Rand, are still going to a SARS branch.
The South African Institute of Tax Practitioners says the shortening of the manual filing season could lead to overcrowding at SARS branches.
You'll push the date forward. The only issue is you might find more crowding in October. So the lines and the queues may be longer, and that's why we use e-filing and other systems. And to be honest, SARS doesn't want you coming in. They prefer you to use the e-filing system. It's far more effective.
SARS says it has no choice but to keep the start date in July and close the window earlier. It's encouraging taxpayers who can to use its e-filing system and avoid going into branches. The annual e-filing window starts in July and also ends in October for non-provisional taxpayers. Provisional taxpayers can file electronically until the end of January 2019. Heidi Jokos, Pretoria.
Let's recap your top stories this evening. The police minister and the police commissioner both promise an upscaled police force. This as 3 more cash-in-transit incidents reported today. Fighting for her career, Cape Town Mayor Patricia de Lille goes head-to-head with the DA in court over her axing, saying there was no justifiable reason for it. Sports.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Weather Center. We had cloud-free skies dominating the weather throughout Monday across much of South Africa. However, a southeasterly breeze has also been driving rain-bearing clouds into the eastern areas of the Eastern Cape and much of KwaZulu-Natal, giving us isolated rain showers, which are going to continue tonight for these parts of the country. Now, on Tuesday, we are going to have light rain and drizzle for parts of KwaZulu-Natal, a bit of fog for the eastern Highveld areas. Then later on in the day, We are going to see a few patches of cloud for the northeastern areas. Otherwise, it's going to be sunny and warmer for the central, western and southern parts of South Africa. Now, here's what you can expect for your part of the country. We start with the Northern Cape, where cloud-free skies are forecast for your Tuesday. It's going to be mild to warm for the province, Appington, making it to around 25 degrees in the afternoon. Sunny and warm weather is forecast for much of the Western Cape interior, as well as around Cape Town, where a high of 24 is expected. It's also going to be sunny for much of the Eastern Cape with mild afternoon temperatures. However, it will be chilly in the morning for the northern parts of the province. Partly cloudy to cloudy skies are forecast for KwaZulu-Natal, cold for much of the interior, mild for the coastal areas, where light rain can be expected around Durban and Richards Bay. We are going to see a bit of cloud overhead across the Mpumalanga province with cold afternoon temperatures for the Highveld, a mild 19 for the high in Mbombela. Mostly clear skies are also forecast for the Limpopo province, Polokwane and Tshwane peaking at just around 19 degrees on Tuesday afternoon. Clear skies are forecast across much of the northwest. It will start cold in the morning and become mild in the afternoon. We are also going to have mostly sunny weather across the Free State, Bloemfontein, starting at -1 and peaking at 18 degrees in the afternoon. We are going to see a bit of cloud in places across the Gauteng province, highs around 17 for Soweto and Johannesburg. And now looking ahead to your Wednesday, sunny skies are forecast across much of South Africa, partly cloudy, however, around Richards Bay. Then on Thursday, light rain can be expected in the evening around Cape Town. Sunny weather continues for the rest of the country.
And finally, Time magazine took to the sky with nearly 1,000 drones to create its iconic red-bordered cover, hundreds of feet over Folsom, California. In an incredible display of creativity and skill, the magazine teamed up with Intel to create the airborne cover image. Now, they used 958 Intel Shooting Star drones that can be programmed to create images with their lights. The drones were flown up to a height of about 120 meters, battling changing winds and turbulence to coordinate the flying lights for the magazine's cover image. Let's recap your top stories this evening. The police minister and commissioner both promise an upscaled police force as 3 more cash-in-transit heists reported today. Fighting for her career, Cape Town Mayor Patricia de Lille goes head-to-head with the DA in court over her axing, saying there was no justifiable reason for it. And in sport, Kevin Anderson's French Open dream comes to an abrupt end after he's knocked out in the last 16. And that's your news. Take care. Good night.